I just want to start off by saying that tá áthas orm an deise oil chun luirt na rátaí Oireachta an Ucht. Mar is sol doing go léir tá Oireacht fear hábhachtach an chóras idicus agus caithmid ar seachnaí a dhéanamh chun dul chun cína dhéanamh maidir le Oireacht agus maidir le na daltaí atá ag staidir Oireacht. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak here tonight on this very important matter, science, as it's Science Week, particularly as a member of the Oireachtas Higher Education Committee and as a former national school teacher. I noted with interest the statement issued to us from the Royal Irish Academy outlining how higher education can lead the way when it comes to creating new opportunities, developing and supporting talent, research, skills, sustainability on the island of Ireland in the years to 2035, and I fully agree with those sentiments. I welcome the fact also that Athlone IT and LIT in Limerick IT have become a consortium and have now got university status. I warmly welcome that, and I know the Minister of State, Deputy Collins, has done a lot of work, as has the Minister for Higher Education. I'd like to acknowledge that. Because it will, I hope, help in the promotion of science, because there will be more science courses on offer, I would imagine, for students. But more importantly, I feel that it will help generate much needed employment in our regions, but particularly in the Midlands region, because I'm always in here raising the problems in the Midlands region that we have. And unfortunately, I find myself most of the time raising the fact that instead of focusing on job creation, I find myself trying to scramble to save jobs in the Midlands. And every day I come in here, it's either forestry, agriculture, Board na Móna workers, or it's our horticulture industry, which is also under threat in terms of job losses. So I do sincerely hope that, as well as government stepping up to the plate to protect tens of thousands of jobs in rural counties like Laois and Offaly, in all of those sectors, agriculture, forestry and horticulture, I do hope that we will see much needed job creation and proper, stable jobs that will help to revitalise a region that has been disadvantaged, and I'd go as far as saying has been neglected by the IDA and by government, who didn't create jobs. And I would go as far as saying that because Board na Móna was the big employer, that the Midlands was forgotten about and wasn't prioritised in terms of job creation. It should have been. And I know I came in here as a newly elected TD in 2016 on the topic of job creation, long before the announcement from Board na Móna. So I do hope that our university status in terms of Athlone will help us to create many much needed jobs in our rural towns and villages in Laois Offaly. I want to also emphasise that there is a particular need for independent research when it comes to science, and not simply another government quango filled with the cronies of ministers who are willing to essentially rubber stamp or underpin government policy. That to me isn't proper research at all, and it's an insult to the experts that we have and the expertise that we have in terms of research. And I know that some of the suggested actions from the Academy are admirable, especially in terms of the All-Ireland Research and the Innovation Advisory Council to provide expert independent policy advice. But we have to also, I suppose, acknowledge the fact that last week we saw the Climate Action Advisory Council where Minister Ryan appointed his own people, including Green Party members. Now, that's not what the people of this state want any longer. We want to make sure that the people elected to those positions or put in those positions are done so independently, and that there is transparency also. It shouldn't have to come from an influential minister. I feel that's a step too far, and Irish people don't want that. That kind of action not only undermines the validity of strong research and indeed our expertise, but it also risks creating the perception that knowledge is just another political tool and not something that can be fully relied upon to point the way forward in a way that is above party politics. We also saw something similar when the Taoiseach recently launched an extraordinary attack on the independent report from KPMG, commissioned by the Farmers Journal, on the impact of government's emission policies, which I felt was very factual and gave the facts and the impact and the possible impacts that these policies will have on rural Ireland in terms of the agricultural sector in particular. But it seems that if a particular piece of research doesn't suit government policy or a particular agenda, it's dismissed and it's attacked. And that's wrong. That's wrong in a democracy. And I want to call that out here tonight. I'm not saying that there is only ever one monolithic view around what science tells us, but we certainly should avoid claiming science as our own and acting as if others have nothing valid to contribute, simply because we may disagree with them or because it may not fit the narrative or fit into a particular agenda or spin from policy that government is strongly pursuing. It's just so wrong, and I feel it's an insult to those experts and those researchers, independent researchers, that put in the time and the effort and are qualified. All views should be looked at and respected. That, to me, the fact that so much research, including the KPMG report commissioned by the Farmers Journal, was dismissed, to me, is the height of scientific arrogance, and it contributes nothing to the national debate. And I do hope that there is a change in the tone and indeed in the way that such evidence that contradicts maybe a policy that is flawed is treated and the way it's disregarded. I do hope that changes, because it's certainly something that needs to change. Gurv Magiv.